Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 112 of Eat, Drink, Write, an Urban Fantasy Whiteboard. I'm Sherry Ellison,
And I'm Taylor.
and we are going to be talking about the second part of plot holes today, how to fix them. Last time we were here, we talked about how to find them. So we thought we would now talk about how to fix them because it doesn't do you much good to find them and then not know what to do with them. So the first thing you need to think about is,
Wait,
well,
wait, wait,
first of
wait, wait,
all,
wait,
yeah,
wait.
wait, wait, what are we
But wait,
drinking?
yeah, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking water. So we're recording this on this day of the Super Bowl, and we're recording early. And if I started drinking now, I would miss all of the Super Bowl.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess I'll see you later this afternoon for
Yeah,
the Super Bowl.
yeah, we
Um,
can drink then.
yeah, we can drink then.
We'll
That'll
we'll
be, I
take
think,
pictures of those drinks for our website.
oh, our website. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah,
I'm drinking Pepsi. Very, I needed some caffeine.
yeah. I'm just drinking water, and it's very tasty. So
Yeah.
this tonight, I don't know what we're gonna drink. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I've been sick, so I probably won't drink too much, but I obviously have to
okay.
have something for the Super Bowl. So,
And we'll take pictures of it. So we got to have some fun cups or something to
yeah.
put it in. I
Yeah.
actually found a really cute shirt for your wife that I wish that I had bought before.
Yeah.
It says something like, "I'm just here for the commercials, the drinks, and the food," and it's got a
Oh
big
my
football
God.
on it. And I'm like,
That
that is Sid
yes.
for sure.
That is perfect for her. She would love that. You got to
Yeah.
add in with your cricket machine or something and for the kisses because I give her a
Oh,
kiss
and
every
for the
time
kisses. That's
we
right.
get a touchdown.
Yep. So we will see. So I've downloaded some games that we can play tonight during,
Oh,
commercial
fun.
bingo
Oh,
and
I love that. Sid'll
yeah.
love that. That'll be
So
great.
yeah, so that'll be fun. So that's us tonight. We actually get together. But for now we are doing our podcast thing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So how have
We're
you been
trying to
since
stay consistent.
the last 2 weeks? It's been 2 weeks.
It has been 2 weeks. I've been sick this week, or like just
Yeah,
gradually getting sick. It's been rather mild, and hopefully it was the worst yesterday because I feel better today than I did
good.
yesterday.
Well, knock on
Um,
wood.
I know, right? Yeah, I started off with just like a very small cough like throughout the week. Like, I don't know, just not even a bad cough. It was just like every now and then I would just have like a little cough.
Hmm.
And then yesterday I was hacking up a storm and it's a lot better today. So hopefully I'm like over the hump.
I hope
Um
so.
and I like energy wise, like I feel fine. Like other than having a cough, like I feel all right. Yesterday I had like a headache, but I also had pizza the night before, and
Hmm.
that always makes me really like groggy the next day. I don't know what it is.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
it. Do you feel the same way when you drink beer? Because I think yeast is in both of those.
I do. Yeah, I do actually. I always thought it was hops because Grandpa was
Oh,
allergic to hops, but there's no
yeah.
hops in pizza, so
Unless it's a beer pizza.
well, that's fair. But I don't feel that way like eating, like normal bread products. Like that's
Mm,
I do
hmm.
fine on like, biscuits and I
I
think it
wonder
might
what
be
it
like,
is.
yeah, I don't know. It could be like salt content or
Could be.
something
Or one
like
of the
that.
spices that they use in a pizza.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. So that might have also been why I felt so bad yesterday is because I had probably like a pizza and a half on Friday night or whatever. So
Yum.
yeah.
I
What
still
about,
remember that pizza we ate on our writing trip. It was the best pizza
oh
I've
my
ever had. I
gosh,
know.
that bear
So
would have liked
good.
it too.
That bear would have liked it too. But I am exhausted because I had court all last week. So this
That's right.
is
Yeah.
that was exhausting. So hopefully I'll relax some today and we can watch football tonight and
Yeah, it'll be
won't
good.
won't drink too much. I hope I don't have a hangover tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, right. Well, Sid and I have decided to play hooky from work tomorrow just for funsies. So
That's a smart idea the day after
yeah,
the Super Bowl. Yep,
right.
yep. Okay, well, let's get to how to fix plot holes.
Sounds
And
good.
the first thing that you need to do is to be open to changes. It may be
Yeah.
that you find a plot hole and you may decide that the way you ended your story really would be better if you ended it in some other way.
Honestly, like the ending of my books it's always the hardest part for me
Yeah.
because there are so many different directions that I can always see the ending of my books. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
I have a general idea usually like of the ending that I want and where I want my characters to end up
Yeah.
story arc wise. But a
Hmm.
lot of the time I'm like, okay, well, like I feel like I rushed it in this version, and I just always feel like the end is always hardest for me anyway. And I'll write it one time, and I'll feel very attached to those scenes that I have in my head.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and so like I have a lot of problems going back and cutting things, even when I know that there are problems like plot holes and stuff in it.
I
But I think we've talked about it before. Like
we have.
I cut them out and put them in a new Word document, and then that way they're still there, and I can keep
Yeah,
it and
you haven't
rewrite the better
deleted it.
parts. Yeah,
Yes, for
and then
sure.
I feel better
That's
about it.
I had a terrible time. I think you were the one that told me to do that, that was
Yeah,
because, I'm like, I have to cut it and I don't want to delete that. And you're like, well, save it in a different place. And I was like,
yeah.
aha.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many different file versions I have for endings of books that I've written
Mhm.
just because I was like, I can't just delete it. Like I liked how I did some of this and
I I
um
use I usually I know the beginning and I know the end.
yeah.
And so that's the end I try to work for. But
Yeah.
inevitably I have that epiphany at the end and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so the end isn't always the end that I start off with.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
for
I
sure.
do have it in mind because I
Yeah.
know which direction I'm going. That's about the most plotting I do is beginning and end idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know it is really hard to rewrite and change things, but sometimes you just have to. And finding a plot hole may be one of those times when, you have to. So,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's super true. And I feel like, a lot of the time you're gonna find a way to make things work better.
mm-hmm,
Or you'll think of a super cool twist to fix this plot hole,
mm-hmm.
or something. It'll end up even more exciting, even though, you wanted to have that original idea.
And it might even be, like you said, better, but more in depth, give that, because sometimes, like, especially if, like me, I beginning and end, that's a very
Yeah.
linear uh little linear line. And so when
Yeah.
you are able to do these twists to fix those plot holes, are you laughing at me?
Yeah, a little bit.
Linear line.
Yeah, you like your linear line. Well, because I laugh because you always tell me like it's like weaving, what
It
do you say, a
is.
tapestry or something, and you got to
Yeah.
weave the threads
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you're calling it like you start at a linear line and then you find those strings to like
Mm-hmm.
weave into it to make it
Mm-hmm.
a whole. And
Mm-hmm.
I laugh at you, but that is a great metaphor. It's a beautiful metaphor. I
It
enjoy
is
it.
for me. It took you a while to see it because I don't know how you wrote, but you didn't
Um,
consider it weaving. I don't
I
know.
webbed. I do webs, and it's similar,
Oh, yeah.
But I used to do like I would draw the center circle, like this is the main plot idea and what I want to happen, and then
Hmm.
branching out from that where things connected towards that.
Oh, see, that's smart too.
Yeah, yeah. So I like the web idea also because visually I can just picture it better
Hmm.
as a web, like where things are connected, and I can draw lines from one plot point to the other, even if they're not connected to, plot point C or whatever.
I have used flowcharts.
Oh,
I
flowcharts are great.
I
Yeah.
don't know that a web would work for me, but a flowchart does
Yeah.
because then, like you said, you can still tie this point to this point, and you see how that connects.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
really do want to start trying to use Plotter. I guess I'm gonna have to download it and see.
Yeah, for
But
sure. I am really enjoying it. And it's really good too for like I think I talked about this last episode, where I am going through a book that I've already written and I'm putting in the plot points into
mm-hmm,
Plotter so that I can more visually see how those, plot points played out or whatever.
mm-hmm.
And it's very cool. It is really nice.
Yep, I'm gonna have to do it.
Yeah.
So the next thing when you're trying to fix your plot holes is to be aware of factual errors, because a lot of times that's all it is. It's not this
Yeah.
something that you're going to have to rework your whole entire story, but
Right.
you've really got to make sure that a person who has blue eyes the whole time, unless it's some magical reason why it changes.
Well,
Because,
that's true. Yeah.
there have been people that when they cast their spells, their eyes turn colors, that
Right,
kind
or
of
like
thing.
werewolves, like their eyes change colors,
Yeah,
in a lot of the stories anyway, like in Patricia
yeah,
Briggs' books, they do
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we talked about this last episode too, but the alpha and beta readers are really, really, really good for this.
Hmm.
They're going to spot these for you better than you can spot them yourself. Every time Sid reads my book, she's like, "Oh, she was standing," and then now she's suddenly sitting
Hmm.
across the room.
Hmm.
So those kinds of factual errors are like really good to catch with beta readers and
Yeah,
stuff.
as far as appearances go, what I've started to do is in my editing phase is as I'm reading, I mean, I skim for description of each character, and then
Character.
I will write down the details in each scene that I come across that character. And then I can just, which I think plotter, can you see
Yeah.
that would be a great way to do that? Then you can track she has blue eyes. You can see it yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something I've started playing with because I never really did that before. I had an Excel sheet, I think, somewhere, where I had like character descriptions to keep track
You
of
are
those
very
types of
like your
things.
father that way. He is
Yeah.
Excel all the way, and it hurts my head to look at an Excel sheet.
I like how
I mean, you can
y
color code it, and that
yeah, you can
helps.
do whatever you want with it, and I think that's really nice. And you can have multiple categories of information for them
Hmm.
organized by column. And I don't know, I really like
He
Excel.
swears by it. He loves
Yeah,
Excel.
yeah.
That's
No, I like it a lot too.
it's
I like it a
hard
lot
for
too.
me. But the next thing is impossible or unbelievable events.
Oh, yeah.
So think about the event that you've had happen. And I think a lot of us have tried to bend our book to go where we want it to go. Like I was telling you, I
Guilty.
know
Yeah.
my beginning and I know my end, so I'm trying to bend it to go that way. And that might be where that issue comes from. And you're going to have to rethink that event and possibly rewrite it so that it's no longer unbelievable. Or you don't have to change that point, but you have to change something to
Right.
make that impossible event possible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've rewritten the ends of my books just because the way that I wrote it, I'm like, okay, like sure, like that would actually happen. Like no, and it's funny and it makes me cringe every time I go back and read like the first iteration of the end of one of my books because I'm like, God, like it's just one, it's rushed, the pacing is usually
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
And that in itself is it's not a plot hole, but like it can cause plot holes if you're like rushing something.
Hmm.
And so, I found that going back and fixing the plot holes that I've written into the end of my books can be a fun puzzle. I am such a nerd when it comes to the craft of writing. Like, I just
Yeah.
super enjoy it. And I usually end up just loving what I end up with, instead of what I had to begin with, like the
Yeah.
original idea or whatever. So,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I cringe when I reread stuff too. And, even really good published authors have that issue of rushing.
hmm.
There are some books that, I get down and I'm like, how are they going to finish this in the last 10 pages?
Yeah.
And they do. And sometimes it is rushed. Sometimes it works.
Sometimes it works really well.
But
A lot of the time it does, honestly.
a lot of the time, most of the time, I would say it does. But even
Yeah.
there are times that I've finished a book and I thought, well, what happened? That went too fast.
Yeah.
How did we get there? And it can be bothersome.
Bothersome. There you go.
I'm a writer, right?
You're not even drinking yet.
I know, no drinking. What the heck? So another thing is unbelievable character actions, and we talked about this last time because this
Yeah.
really irritates me.
Grinds your gears.
It really does. So what is motivating your characters? You've got to consider that character motivation. My
My
goodness.
goodness.
And your characters have to make choices that are consistent with that characterization that you've built. And that has to have something to do with the plot of your story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't have them do some wackadoodle thing and your readers
Right. Just
going,
because.
why did they do that? I mean, I can see them doing that, but if it doesn't give value to your story, then that could be a plot hole itself.
Right.
You got to think about, are their motivations clear? Are they believable? Are they true to the character? What decisions could they make to change an outcome in the story? How can
Yeah.
you, if you find that plot hole, or if your beta reader finds that plot hole, you got to look at it and figure out now how should they have acted?
Right.
What happens if I do make them act that way? And I think you and I've talked about this before too. Sometimes we will write things that aren't part of our book, but we'll write from another character's point of view somewhere
Yes.
else to see
Yeah.
where that goes.
Yep.
And that would be a good way, I think, to fix the character issue.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, like character motivations is our ours. I'm also a writer.
We are
Uh,
really struggling today. Maybe we need to drink. That's
yeah,
what the
you're right.
problem
You're
is.
absolutely right. Alcohol would fix everything. No, I think that's something that you should think about for your characters from the beginning of plotting your novel or even thinking about the book that you're writing.
Hmm.
Something I do is I imagine myself as my character.
Okay.
I write in first person. It's a little bit easier
Yeah.
for me to just jump into the headspace of my characters just because of that.
Hmm.
Um, but I'll jump into their headspace and with all their background and knowledge, and I'm like, okay, well, what would I do next in this situation? If it were me
Yeah.
in this book and in this environment faced with these issues, what would I do?
Hmm.
And obviously that doesn't work with all characters because a lot of my characters are very much not me.
Hmm.
They do have different personalities. I do.
But
Uh,
I do think you can put yourself, you've written them. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
do understand their motivations. And, it may not be, what would I do, but it could very well be, okay, I am this person. What would he do or she do?
right.
And you can
Yeah.
see that because you've written them. And I think that's a great way to think about fixing these plot holes.
It helps a
I,
lot, and it
yeah.
also helps me to envision, like what scene is coming next, because sometimes I'll be absolutely stumped and not know
Hmm.
what is supposed to happen, and I don't want to write myself into a plot hole and that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And then
Hmm.
just popping myself into the story is a really good way for me to be like, oh, I would do this next. So like, all right, that's what I'm going to write next. Like, and
And
that's what,
sometimes that does give you ideas that you hadn't thought as the writer.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because as the writer, we're trying to play God over we're
Yeah,
moving all these things
puppet
around. But
strings. Yeah,
as the character, it gives you a different viewpoint to look through. So
definitely. Yeah.
I do like that. And then remember that out of character actions with no explanations are plot holes in and of themselves.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
tread very carefully and know your characters inside and out, like you said. I think that, go into their point of view, even if it's a character that you have a hard time um, empathizing with,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
the bad guy.
The
But
bad guy.
you
Yeah.
do still need to know, is this something they would do? I really don't like the very one-dimensional. I mean, it works, everything works in certain times, but
Yeah.
I don't like it helps, I think, to put yourself inside your bad guy's head and say, why am I doing this? Because that makes it realistic from a real person's point of view as just from us playing the puppet master, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, I agree. Character sheets can be really helpful for that kind of thing too, just, like organizing information about your
Like,
character in general.
oh, you know what first came, like D&D character sheets? That's the first thing that came to my mind.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Actually, but I should say, you all, Taylor is our dungeon master, and we have been playing D&D together. So, of course, that's the first thing that came to my mind was a
Yeah.
D&D character, which actually, like you said, isn't too far off of what character sheets
No,
are.
it's really not. You can, it has like their backstories, and obviously they have stats for rolling and things, which wouldn't necessarily fit in a book setting. But
Right, right.
no, I actually like that. I like that that's the first thing that you thought of
And
was
you know what?
D&D character sheets.
If you are stuck, it might not be a bad idea to roll for initiative.
Honestly, yeah, it's
you
not
know,
bad.
it might
It's
take you in a direction that you hadn't thought of that could get you out of your writer's block or whatever the issue is that you're facing.
yeah, for
Anyway,
real.
didn't mean to
Um,
go there.
no, that's hilarious. But character sheets with information about your characters can help you to avoid like these out of character actions. Like if um you look back in their blurb and you're like, oh, well, in their past, their dad died because of blah blah blah. So
Hmm.
this character would never do this thing that their dad did that led to their death. Like that kind of
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
Just to have that reference would be really nice to
What
look back and
was it? Excel that you used for we talked about this last time too, and we've talked about this before because I'm so in awe of you being able to do this, where you have all the characters on the top and the bottom, and where they meet is
ah,
you're talking about how they would interact together. That's another great way to prevent out of character actions with regards to other characters.
that's
Would they
true.
would they really treat this person that way? Would they really say that knowing that this guy had stabbed him in the back before? Would they really be forthcoming?
Right.
So
Well,
I
and
like that too.
I can't take full credit for that Excel sheet that I have because that was something that I saw someone else do and I was
Oh,
like, that's really cool. And I wish I had, since we talk about it now, I wish I had who that was. I'll try to find that. But
we can
I
put that
can't
on
take
our
credit for that
website.
idea for sure.
A brilliant idea, whoever did it.
Whoever
And
did it was fantastic. I'll try to find it. It's been years since I first found it. So I'll see if I
and
can find it.
I've tried it myself. I just have a really hard time implementing it for some reason. I don't know, but it is
Well,
a brilliant idea.
Yeah, and it's easy, to start out and be like, well, this character is going to hate this character because of blah. But then you put
Mm-hmm.
them together and you actually are writing them in a scene and seeing how they interact. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
always going to be that cut and dry, like this is what
Right.
I put in their box on the Excel sheet.
Right.
Um, because
Honestly, I love that when that happens. When
yeah,
you think
yeah.
these two characters are going to meet and it's going to be fireworks and the characters meet and it takes you in this direction, you're like, what the hell are they doing?
Oh, it's wild.
I love it.
Yeah, I had my one of my characters. I was like, "Oh, she's gonna hate this guy. He's gonna be sleazy and gross and meh, and not gonna like it." And he became the love interest.
Yep.
And I was like, "All
Yep.
right, cool. All right,
I
I
remember
guess
that
that's
one.
fine. You can do that, I
And,
suppose."
and you try to bend them back. No, you're supposed to be an asshole. And they're not acting that way. And you're like, what is going on? But
Yeah,
they have minds of their own, our
they really
characters
do.
of their own. Wow.
My Lord, you can't talk today.
I really can't.
Another thing that I do, so you mentioned that I write from another character's point of view to kind of get an idea of them
Yeah.
um, as what they would do with their actions and everything. But I also like, I mean, I write whole scenes for my main characters in their everyday life, like slice of
Oh,
life type of scenes.
nice.
Yeah, just to kind of get an idea of their personality and like how, how do they take their coffee, like, that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
Like very small things, because that gives you an idea of like what a character does in their everyday routine. Like, what is their morning routine? Are they like really strict about it or are they like relaxed?
I
Um,
think I could do that as opposed to plotting. I could
yeah,
do a scene or like a slice of life for every one of my characters, and that would help
yeah,
immensely. And
yeah,
I
because
wouldn't have to be stuck with the plotting, rigid plotting that I don't like.
yeah, for sure. Because like it would just give you an idea of their personality and like how do they go through their everyday lives, and that
Hmm.
might give you a clue as to how they might react to certain situations.
I mean, and I
Um,
love the what you just said. How do they take their coffee?
yeah, yeah,
Such a small detail, but that adds so much depth to a
right.
character.
Yeah, I think I had a piece of description in one of my books that Sid really liked, where like my character was playing with their coffee cup, like spinning it in circles kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I'm having
And
hair issues. Sorry.
she always said, oh, I never think about that kind of detail. That's like really cool detail that you put in your book, and it's just like a little quirk of the character.
Yes, I love
Um,
quirks.
yeah, and those kinds of things I find come out a lot in these random little slice of life scenes that I
That is
write.
such a good idea. I've been watching House of Cards. I don't know if I was telling you all this last time or not, but
Yeah.
the main character does he has a ring on his finger and he taps twice.
Ah,
That's just a habit that he does in certain circumstances, and it's a really cool little quirk that he
yeah,
has.
yeah.
So, and I love I'm going to start doing slice of life. That slice of life. Wow. I am struggling. You struggled just a little bit, but I am constant here. Okay, I'm going to move on.
Move on.
Um, it is important for your plot, for your character to act in the way the plot works.
Hmm.
And you may have to, this is the weaving thing, you may have to
Yeah,
go back in and weave in actions throughout the book to make this particular action not out of character. You
yeah,
you might still need them to do what you have them doing that seems out of character, and that can work, but you're going to have to go back and weave in little tidbits as to why when they get to this point in time they act out of character. Has
right.
somebody
Yeah,
pushed their buttons to the point all along where our reader would go, hell yeah, I would have punched him in the
yeah.
nose
I'm gonna
too,
explode. Yeah,
yeah. But that gives them a reason to that the reader can get behind. But you've got to, and so yeah, we're not saying you have to change what this out of character action is. You just have to be able to
leave
explain
some
it.
breadcrumbs. Yeah,
Yes,
leading up to
yes.
it. Yeah,
One of the other plot hole issues that we talked about was unresolved plot lines.
right.
And for this, you've really got to have a list of all of your different plot lines.
Yeah, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record. We do on a lot of these topics because they
Hmm.
are just very interwoven. But I
Hmm.
super praise Plotter. You
Okay.
know, I've praised it last episode. We praised it earlier this episode. I'm gonna do it again. It's really good. It's great. I love seeing my plots laid out in color, and in a straight line and organized by scene and by chapter. I can track my plots a lot easier now, and I think it's going to help with avoiding unresolved plot lines because I can see them all laid out and I can know if I finished one up or not.
I love that. That I
Yeah.
really am going to have to. We sound like
This
an
is
advertisement
unsponsored.
for
I know. I'm
Plotter,
not
but yeah,
sponsored by
I
Plotter, but I love it.
promise.
So,
But if you don't have Plotter, you can write out your list of plot lines, and then for each plot line, write out your expected or intended arc.
I love it. That is,
Yeah.
I am such, like I said, I'm a nerd for writing craft. I just
Mm-hmm.
absolutely adore writing out all of my plot lines and trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out where I want them to go and
Mm-hmm.
how to get
Mm-hmm.
there. I think it's great.
And then when you do that, you can say, oh, yeah, I meant for it to do this, but it didn't. So then you'll know
Yeah.
I have to go in and complete that little plot line that I didn't complete.
Yeah.
Or if you want it to not be resolved, which like in a series you might
Right.
not,
Yeah.
then write it to a way that it is resolved for the reader knowing that it's going to come back later. You've
Hmm.
just got to give some kind of sense of resolution to your reader that it might be like, oh, I can't wait to see what's going to happen with that. I want the next book now. I mean, how many times have we
Right.
finished a book and gone, oh my God, we got to wait a year for the next book to come out?
Dude, tell me about it.
I
Yeah, for
know.
sure.
But yeah, for that, you don't have to resolve it completely, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No. Well, and I'm
Um,
a big sucker for series long plot lines. Like, don't
Me
get me
too.
wrong, I
Me too.
absolutely love them. You talking about how many times have we been waiting for a year? Those Karen Monning books,
Oh my God.
the
Yes.
Fever series,
Yes.
master of overarching plot across a
And
series.
not only were we all disgruntled about having to wait a year, but forums would pop up where everybody else
Yes.
was wanting, and we would all talk about what do you think is going to happen here? So, what if it was this? And I mean,
Right.
what a great writer to inspire readers to come together and talk about, oh my God, what about
Absolutely.
this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she did it in a way too that I didn't, she did the cliffhanger thing, and it's very easy to feel cheated with
Yeah.
cliffhangers.
Yeah.
I thought it was exciting. Some people hate them.
Hmm.
Um, but for the overarching plot, like she did it in such a way that it's going to be a multi-book
Hmm.
plot line. So
Yeah.
like that in that way, like I never felt cheated about not getting the answers to those plot lines because I knew it was going to take a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and I knew it was going to be a larger spread out story. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of brings me to continuity and time
oh yeah,
because time in a series is longer than,
important. Yeah.
yeah. So, you use this PowerPoint that, well, you used to
Yes.
before Plotter, this PowerPoint thing with each slide for a day, which I think is just brilliant.
I still do that, even with Plotter. It
Okay.
helps me to visualize, like, because I'll title my slide day one of the book is day one, and then dash what day is it in the book. So day one, Thursday. It starts on a Thursday.
See, I need to do that because I never can remember what day it is, what time it is.
Yeah, and it's important for like, I'll send one of my characters to work and it turns out it's a Saturday and they're closed on Saturdays, and I mentioned that earlier in the book.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of stuff.
And that's exactly what we're talking about these plot holes. That is a
Yeah.
definite plot hole.
So I still use PowerPoint. It helps me to avoid those issues.
Yeah, for sure. Um, you need to somehow track time too, like not just the day,
Hmm.
but like a beta reader will come to me and say they were having tea, it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and now all of a sudden it's dark outside.
Right.
How did that happen? So, whether you do it by scene or whatever, you've got to have a way to yourself as the writer to track time so that you don't put some kind of plot hole in there. And
Right.
and this probably is something a beta reader will catch. Thank God for
Yeah.
beta readers.
Right.
And it may be if you have a notebook for each chapter, which I also think is a good idea, you can simply write at the top, this is like you said in your PowerPoint, this is
Yeah.
Thursday, 10 o'clock, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I like that idea a lot, actually, like having a different notebook for each chapter or like a different section for each chapter or
Hmm.
whatever. I think that's a really nice quick reference to timing. Like just as even as you're editing or revising your novel or whatever, that's a really nice way to
And
have a quick reference for it.
without having to reread 50,000 pages,
Yeah, or going into
right?
mega detail like I do. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But,
No, that's nice.
this can get tricky if you have multiple characters' points of view. This is something that Presley Cole is
Mm,
amazing
she's a
at.
queen at that. Yes.
She can take time, her books are all interrelated time-wise. So something will happen in book five, and in book six, we're starting with these characters prior to something that happened in book five, but we see in book six where that happens. And
She's a
I mean,
genius.
it gives me goosebumps. She is
Yes.
absolutely brilliant.
It is
But
like one of my dreams to write
I
something like
know,
that.
same like that. So it is tricky if you've got multiple characters' points of view. So it's important you've got to know the time frame, and if they overlap, make sure it flows well, that you don't have something happen before that you forget to put in your next book that was supposed to have already happened. You've got, it's
Yeah,
hard.
it
It
is
is really
hard.
hard.
Yeah.
But this is her superpower.
Presley Cole is amazing. I want to know her method. I want to like reach out and be like, what is your way of going about this? How do you do this?
I read a article about her a long, long time ago about how her writing process is, not as far as the this kind of thing, but where does she write? How does she write? Is it in a dark room?
Oh,
Is it with
cool.
tea? And the only thing I remember from that article is that she always has a blanket. There's like a yellow blanket or
Oh,
something that she has to have with her as she writes.
and it gets her into the mindset or
I
something.
I guess I don't know.
That's cool.
I'll have
That's
to go
cool.
back and find that article now because I may have misspoke, but that's what I remember from reading
Yeah,
that
that's awesome.
article. Yeah. So, I mean, do you have anything like that? Do you
I was
always
trying
have to
to
have a cup
think.
of tea? I mean, I loved it when we were writing together at the
Oh my,
bookstores, at
the
the
bookstore.
coffee shop. Well, I would love to write in a bookstore. I love books, but we would always get our tea and sit
Hmm.
at the table and write together. Even if we had our headphones on, we were still together.
Right. No, I do miss doing that. I was telling
Hmm.
Sid about that the other week. I miss doing that. It was fun.
Hmm.
I don't think so. I have less time than I used to actually sit down and write.
Yeah.
And so I'll be at work and I'm a scientist. I do microbiology stuff. And so in between my protocols, I'll have like a 5 minute time where, my samples have to sit. So I'll get 5 minutes. I'll run and sit down and I'll type for 5 minutes and
Wow.
then I'll get back up and then I'll have 10 minutes. And so I'll type for 10 minutes. And
That's
um,
impressive.
yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and maybe it's because it's the new year and all of that jazz, but
Yeah.
like I would
Yeah.
really like to move forward and actually work on writing and focus on it and that kind of stuff. So
You
I've been doing
guys, she's
doing
been
a
working
lot.
on query
I
letters.
have, oh my God, queer letters make me want to die.
I
I need to go and
know.
listen to our old episode on
our
it.
our episode on it. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
because they are hard.
They are super hard, but I
They're
liked
hard
what
to
she
write.
did, so I'm excited to have her getting her stuff back out there again.
Yeah.
Okay, the next plot hole fix is about antagonist,
Maybe
the bad guy issues.
listen, issues might also be antagonistic, okay? Like they
You're
they
not
can be
wrong.
mean to us.
So take time and really think about your antagonist. It may require an in-depth character sheet. It may require going into their head, like Taylor was talking about. But you may also have to rework some of the actions of that character as you go all the way through to get to that point, unless
Yeah.
you come up with the epiphany going, oh, it actually works this way to a better ending. That might happen too.
Yeah.
But some of my favorite bad guys have a really good reason for what they do. That doesn't mean, you want to love and, cherish them or anything, but
Yeah.
you understand why they're doing what they're doing, even if you would never do it.
Yeah.
It makes you feel empathy and a way for them understanding what they went through. It might be that we would never, ever, ever do that.
Yeah. But
But
still some kind of feeling towards like, okay, like I get it or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I love understanding character motivations for the antagonist. I don't
Hmm.
really like the cut and dry, like, oh, they're just evil because they're
They're
evil
just
and they're one
bad. Yeah.
dimensional. Yeah, like tell me why I should care, you know?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I'm reading The Passage right now, and obviously some of the prominent bad guys in that, are people who have been infected and changed
Yeah.
by this virus, and that alone is a great explanation for their actions,
Oh,
for
for
them killing
sure.
people and stuff. So it doesn't even have to be like super buffered by emotional dialogue, like, oh, I killed this person because they were in my past and they did this horrible thing to my,
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be that. It can be, like, oh, they got infected by this virus and it turned them into a homicidal vampire.
Yeah.
So obviously there's more detail to stuff in the passage. It's a massive book and there is background to the vampires and stuff.
Yeah,
But
and there's more than one book. It's a
yeah, there's two books I haven't read
yeah,
yet. So,
yeah.
there's more I gotta figure out. I'm in the
Um,
very beginning. So
did you ever watch The Girl with All the Gifts?
I feel like I did, but I don't really remember it.
Post-apocalyptical, some kind of virus was changing people, um, and these children that were born while the mothers were pregnant that got that disease came out like it was like a second generation of the zombie.
Oh,
And this one main character, she was one that somehow still understood humanity. She still had rational thought. And the whole, that is a great character arc story. I'm not going to ruin it if people haven't seen it
okay.
because it's fairly new. It might be within the last 2 years that it
Did it
came
start
out.
as a book? I imagine
That
it did.
I think it did, but I
Okay.
haven't read the book.
Okay.
And I would now be curious to go and read the book.
Yeah.
But Glenn Close was in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I feel
it's
like I've seen it. I feel like I have.
the character arc of that child is fascinating.
I'm curious if it's a book. I want to go and see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I want to go and see.
Um, One
I bet it is.
thing that we talked about earlier is how you write scenes from different characters' point of view,
Ah, yeah.
and not just to put that into the book, but just
Hmm.
for us to know and to know that's another way to fix like the antagonist. Wow.
Wow.
If you write a scene from the antagonist, the bad guy, okay, the bad guy's point of view,
Just make it simple.
yeah, that is something that will help you fix anything that's wrong. Well, not anything, but it will help you catch things that might be a plot hole as far as your bad guy goes.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Um,
then I don't know what I was going to say. I am just
well,
really stumped today.
no, I mean, I really enjoy writing scenes and stuff, and honestly, I write them specifically not to put them in my book because one, then I feel less pressure on it for whatever reason, self-imposed
Hmm.
pressure.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just for me, and I know it's for me to figure out the characters. It's a really good exercise to,
That's fun.
practice my writing in
Hmm.
general. And I don't have to worry about it ever seeing the light of day. So like I can do, I don't have to worry too much about my sentence structure. I can if I want to, if I'm worried about that kind of thing. But for the most part, it helps me to, like we said earlier, just figure out my characters and make sure I don't write them into a plot hole, that I need to go back and fix later.
Yeah, I'm going to go off tangent for a minute.
Okay.
I'm going to
On
go
tangent,
off
you're
on
on a
a
tangent.
tangent. I was reworking our website
Oh,
because the old one that I had it on was not very user friendly, and I am not super tech ability person. So I've changed it to a different. I'm also not a writing, apparently speaking
you're
person right
great.
now.
Speaking is different than
Um,
writing. It's
so
different.
I put our website on a new place, but what I came across was the itty bitty book bites, which was what I
Oh,
did from our paragraph writing.
oh, that's right.
And
I
I
forgot
made
about that.
for Twitter, which is now X, I had itty bitty book bites where I would take our paragraph writing and put it into little sentences
That's right. We
over
got
the
to start
course
that
of a
back up
week.
again. Yeah.
Yes. And I didn't even remember it until I was reworking the website and I came across it and I'm like, oh, that was fun. And I read it and it was the one that we had done was fun. I mean, it doesn't end. It was just none of
A
it
little
was
bite
edit. Yeah, it
of a
was,
book. Yeah.
yeah, it was not edited. We didn't
That's
edit
awesome.
it. So I'm like, we've got to do this again.
Yeah, we do.
Um,
We got to start back up our paragraph writing in general because it's been a long time since we've
It
done
does,
one.
and it's such a great way. If you've got a writing partner, it is a really great way to, like you had said, not having a pressure on you. It's
Yeah.
not going to be published. It's just to practice your craft. And maybe you're feeling like, I want to work on adjectives today. I want to
Yeah.
work on tone today.
Yeah.
And, so
Well,
yeah,
and how many times have we come up with a cool book idea just because we were
just
writing this
because, yeah,
weird
for sure.
paragraph thing? Yeah.
But another thing that can cause plot holes is if you make edits while you're writing. This is another reason not to do that, even though I do that,
Yeah.
because you could end up editing something that you think in the moment sounds
Mhm.
really good, and it might change something that you had before.
Yeah.
So that's part of why editing as you go, unless you're starting and you're going to read the whole 50,000 words again to catch up to where you are, um,
Yeah.
that could cause plot holes. And, it is difficult, but you need to keep track of your edits if you do edit, which guilty. Then go back and review your outline or whatever it is to see if the things that you changed are going to cause a plot hole.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a big one. I used to be very guilty of that too. I still am. But the way that I kind of circumvent writing myself into a plot hole that way is I write in Word.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if other programs have this. I'm sure they do. I don't know. But I write in Word, but I'll leave myself comments on the side that are like I
Good
change something and
idea.
I write a comment and I say, go back and check on this,
Good
or check on
idea.
this for timeline,
Mm-hmm.
or check on this and make sure that she did give him that thing way back when. And so, like, that way I don't have to worry about going back right in that moment to
Mm-hmm.
fix it because, then you get in an endless loop of like, oh, well, I got to go back and check and I got to reread and I got to edit.
Yeah, yeah,
Nope, I just
yeah.
leave myself a comment. Hey, go back and check, make sure I did this. And then the next time, or whenever I'm right, oh, Jesus, whenever I'm
I'm
revising
rubbing off on
you
you.
are, um, whenever I go back to revise my manuscript, I can be like, oh, I do need to go and check on that and change
Yeah,
that and make sure I've written it well.
that's a
So,
really good idea. Yeah, the
yeah.
comments. I forgot. What I do, I use Word Perfect, which I know I'm antiquated, but I'm sure it's got the ability to do comments. I don't know how to do it. So what I always do is I'll write in a little, those little brackets, and then I'll
Oh,
highlight it.
yes.
So as I'm going through, I'll see the highlight that says, you know, do a better job with the description because I'm
Uh-huh.
just trying to
Uh-huh.
get through and I'm like, it was tall. And then do a better job on
Right.
description.
Well, and I
So
love that you mentioned the brackets because that is something that I also like to do because when you do the control find function,
yes,
and you search for a bracket, you can go to all of those
all
places
of
in
your
your
edits, all
manuscript.
your
Yeah.
comments. Yeah, for
Yeah, to
sure.
to fix those. Yeah.
And then probably the best way to find plot holes is to have a professional editor.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Definitely. 100%.
yeah. So if especially if you're going to self-publish,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
can't skip that part.
Yeah.
You've got to come out of pocket and pay for a professional editor.
I
Hopefully,
agree.
if you don't want to be self-published and you want to have a publisher do it, you'll have an editor through that publishing company. So
Yeah.
so that'll help. But if you're gonna self publish, which I may end up doing at some point,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
like the idea. The one thing I like about self-publishing, off on another tangent,
Another tangent.
there is an author that I absolutely love, and she is a writing machine, Amanda
Yeah.
Lee. I think I've talked about
Oh,
her
yeah, yeah.
before.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait the year.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
writes her book, she publishes it 2 months later, the next one's out, and you're like, yes, I didn't have to wait a freaking year.
Yeah.
And she has like 4 or 5 different series going, different types, witchy ones, mystery ones,
Yep.
and she is a machine. And that you don't have to wait for the publisher to jump through all the hoops and say, oh no, I don't want it to come out now because this other book is similar and I don't, you know,
Right.
you
Yeah.
are in control. So that is another good reason if you are thinking about self-publishing. Brain just went, what are we talking about?
Woo. Yeah, no, I agree. I think there are definitely like a lot of benefits to self-publishing. Like you get to control a lot of
Everything. Yeah.
yeah, pretty much everything about your book. So I think the you we were talking about editors. I do think that is super important. They're going to catch plot holes. They're going to catch those factual errors that might be
Hmm.
in your manuscript. And I've definitely looked at professional editors before, and I, sadly don't have extra money to
Yeah.
do that. Which is why I'm querying and doing the traditional route of
Yeah.
stuff. But
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, you got to remember professional editors are trained to do that. That is their
Oh my gosh,
job.
they're worth it. They are
Yeah.
worth it. I just
As
don't have the money
opposed to
for it right now.
a beta reader will catch a lot of our stuff, but they're not trained to look for the things that
Yeah,
could be problematic. So
absolutely.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But those are great ways to fix your plot holes. I'm sure there are more. You all
Yeah,
can
for sure.
certainly let us know how you do it. How do you find your plot holes and how do you fix them?
Yeah.
Let us know podcast topic ideas that you want. You can find um, you can email us at eat.drink.write.podcast@gmail.com. Our website is www.eatdrinkwritepodcast.com.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And pretty much you can find anything there. We have an eat section, which we post pictures of what we eat. We've got a drink section. We post pictures of what we drink and maybe recipes. And then a write section where we just put memes or whatever we find that strike us funny. We do have a blog. I did a blog about alcohol cocktails that go well with writing
Oh, nice.
a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago. So yeah, we try to do that. And
Yeah.
but we will be back in 2 weeks on
Yep.
Tuesday,
Yep.
and we'll have a new fresh topic for you.
We sure will.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.